When I decided to dip my toes into classic rock for the first time, Led Zeppelin was my gateway band. This band that has been played to death on the radio because of their massive popularity is one of the greatest hard rock bands of all time. But some consider them to be the first metal band. Is this true? Stay to find out. They came from the ashes of the British invasion blues band, the Yardbirds, that produced three of the greatest guitar players of all time: Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and finally, Jimmy Page. When the band disintegrated, Jimmy decided to make a new band of the ruins called the New Yardbirds. But eventually it became its own thing and changed rock history forever. Let's get to the members. The leader was obviously Jimmy Page, the weird, perverted occultist who loved famous black magic man Aleister Crowley so much he bought his house. And he dated a 14-year-old girl. Let's just skip that, shall we? He was a fantastic guitar player who was every bit as good on the acoustic guitar as he was on the electric. And he was one of the best guitar soloists in history, mostly because a lot of guitar players just randomly shred to show how great they are. But Jimmy's solos were emotional instead of just showing off. And he played the violin bow on his guitar a couple of times, and it actually sounded pretty good. I consider him number 2 on my personal list of all-time greatest guitar players. John Bonham was the drummer. He was famous for bashing the crap out of his kit before it became fashionable. No one played the drums harder or louder in their time than him, but he wasn't just a basher. Behind the bravado was a lot of technique. He was the first so-called heavy metal drummer. Robert Plant was the quintessential frontman. His voice was a high-pitched banshee wail, and his presence on stage was enigmatic. Originally, he was a blues wailer, but he eventually became the stereotypical metal screecher or cock rock singer. Many tried to copy him. Unfortunately, he is a huge influence on hair bands, which I generally don't like, but I'll choose not to hold it against him. With his good looks and charisma, he influenced every heavy rock singer who followed him in some way. He was also like Prince in that, well, he straddled the line between feminine power and macho man masculinity. In other words, he was kind of girly and yet super macho at the same time. And John Paul Jones, the bassist, had a distinguished career as a session player before joining the band. In fact, he did a string orchestration for the Rolling Stones song She's Like a Rainbow before Zeppelin started. Besides being a great blues-inspired bassist, he was also an excellent keyboard player who added texture to the band. Though they had a signature sound, they were also incredibly diverse. Their first album, which was a classic debut, was heavy blues. The second album was mostly hard rock, and it's the one that mostly gets the nod fair or not as the first metal album. The third had a strong acoustic folk influence. The fourth featured their best song, and one of the best songs I've ever heard in my life, Stairway to Heaven. It was a perfect combination of all three styles. Then the one after that was even more diverse, expanded into prog rock elements. Then the one after was a classic double album. They didn't start really declining until the next album, which was okay but generic, but did feature one of their very best songs in Achilles' Last Stand. By their final studio album, They Were Spent, Jimmy was in full-blown heroin addiction, and while he was always a main songwriter before, he was largely absent here. Creatively, this is the weirdest Led Zeppelin album ever, because it's honest-to-God synth-pop and new wave inspired. This album is far from their signature style, but I still think it's a good, fun record. Then John Bonham, who was always fond of the drink, went too far one day. He passed out while drunk and drowned in his own vomit. When he died, the band that was beginning to decline anyway decided to call it quits. To them, the band wasn't Led Zeppelin without him, and out of respect, they ended, therefore saving themselves from the typical decline phase. Oh, and by the way, there's a really gross story about the groupie and the shark. No one knows if it's true or not, but I won't go into details about it. But it's become one of the most famous or infamous rock and roll urban legends. Okay, here's the thing. Do you like horror movies? cute dog videos, music including rock, rap, and classical, baseball, Star Wars, or DBZ, well, come here to the Hillbilly Review channel, the only place you can find all that crap under one channel. Like and subscribe, I'm not too proud to beg. And if you only like one of those topics, go to one of my detailed playlists to find the topic you want. Let's get with it. So are they a metal band? Well, they are just about one of the heaviest hard rock bands out there. Hard rock obviously being the first heavy rock genre before it was passed up by metal. But honestly, no. Black Sabbath is the first metal band. Zeppelin could be heavy at times, especially for their time, but they simply have way too many pretty acoustic songs too. Heavy metal can't be acoustic after all. Honestly, they were way too diverse for a typical metal band. Blues, hard rock, folk with a dab or two of prog from time to time, yes, but not metal. And Robert Plant always claimed they weren't a metal band. But that doesn't mean they should be shunned by the metal community. And there's a good reason why most real metal bands will claim them as an influence. And they are the perfect bridge between heavy rock and pure metal.